Hi everyone, today we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Miniart, and this is a kit in 1/48 scale, and it should be interesting for all modelers who would like to copy the famous P-47. So as you remember, this is a relatively new tool release from Miniart, and now we have another version. It's a P-47D-28RE Thunderbolt, but this time we get the free French Air Force markings, and you can see one of them on the box art. This is so-called basic kit, so we don't get additional parts for some, let's say, extra features. For example, the wing armor base, and also I think some of the parts for the engine bay as well. But I think for some modelers this is completely okay, and that's why I decided to take a closer look. And of course what you see here is the final shape of this release, so nothing will change and you will get exactly the same set as what is shown here today by me. So first of all, the box size is typical for this release from Miniart. Here you can see comparison with my hand. The kit number is 48015, and here on the side you will find also some information about safety advices and in several languages, also address of the manufacturer. And on the opposite side you can see 3 markings. I hope there are more, but well, even 3 markings are okay, I think, because well, some brands somehow manage to supply even less in this scale. And also here you can see the small mention that decals are coming from cartograph, so that's also cool because it means that the printing quality should be quite okay. And inside we have quite tight packaging. As you can see, the parts are sitting flush with the box and they are sealed into plastic bag, so I'm going to cut through this plastic bag and check what is actually supplied here. So just give me a moment and we will be actually checking it all together. In the meantime, I can remind you that I was reviewing the previous versions of this kit as well, so in case you are interested you can find it easily on the same YouTube channel, and they are quite nice, I would say. I saw some builds and they look really good, and I also did a comparison with previous choice for the P-47, if we can say it this way. It was the Tamiya kit. So there are quite notable differences between these two models, and I really recommend to check it as well. So here we start with the first gray plastic sprue. I guess I can zoom in a bit closer so that you can see what we will be talking about. And as you can see, these are the wing parts. We also have the cowling parts here. Note that the panels are molded separately, and if we are talking about the external features, I think it's worth zooming in so that you can see that here we have nice recessed panel lines and rivets. All of this looks really great for a 1/48 scale, but of course you have to be careful in order not to lose all of these features, because as you can see they are quite fine, I would say. So that's why it is important not to overdo the layers of paint and primer, but I think it's really difficult to do so in 1/48 scale. And here, if I flip over the sprue, you can see that the wing edges there are serving as a guiding elements, but we also have the guiding pins as well, so it's not a difficult task to combine those two large parts together. Next we have a set of identical frames, and they're interconnected, as you can see, so I will leave only one on the table. Here we have mainly the external equipment, and I think that's really cool that Miniart actually included the external fuel tanks and bombs. And also we have landing gear wheels here, and the wheels look alright for out of the box build, but of course if you plan to build something I would say more serious or more detailed, then definitely go for aftermarket resin, because this aircraft has big wheels, so it will be a noticeable upgrade straight away. And just to give you a better idea of the wheels which are supplied in the standard package, so here you can take a closer look at them. And also for this fuel tanks and bombs, I think that's really cool that Miniart actually supplies them in this kit, because some brands are trying to sell it as a separate accessories. Miniart does not go this way, and this is something what I appreciate, because well, for the price you get all of the parts you need. You don't have to do some additional purchases and search for some additional accessories which are sometimes even sold out. Okay, so here we continue with the propeller parts. I think again we can zoom in, and as you can see, these propeller blades are molded together. We have the propeller hub molded separately, and all of this stuff should be combined together. There are no guiding pins or let's say masking for this blades sections, but I think it's not difficult to cover the area you need. And why I was talking about the guiding pins, because here, as you can see, we have the central pin, which should be able to combine those two propellers or two blades together. Next, we continue with the first fuselage half, and I guess I have to zoom out a bit because this one is quite large. Here you can see comparison with my hand. Well, the aircraft, the real one, wasn't small either, so that's why it's not a surprise. But overall quality is really good, and I think with a careful assembly you should get a quite nice result. And external features are pretty much on the same level as what we saw on the wing parts. So I don't think you will be surprised here, but in a good sense, let's say. And on the opposite side, you can see the guiding elements as well. There is no cockpit because it will be assembled separately, so we will talk more about it a bit later when we will be actually checking the cockpit parts. For now, I would like also to show the canopy parts. As you can see, they are clear and crisp. You can also open the cockpit on your aircraft, which is a must-have in 1/48 scale. But there are no masks or masking templates, so for this you will have to search for aftermarket or cut your own masks, of course. Another fuselage half, this time the left side. As you can see, pretty much the same design. Maybe what I can do is actually bring the external features closer so that you can see what I'm talking about here. And again, if I flip it over here on the opposite side, you can see the guiding elements. Okay. Next, we continue with the large gray plastic sprue, which is dedicated to the engine parts, but I will not be zooming out because I think it's worth actually to zoom in and check all of these parts a bit closer. So as you can see, the engine which is supplied in the standard package is really detailed, and this is something what was really surprising for me when I first saw the Thunderbolt from Miniart, because, well, again, a lot of brands prefer to make money on this and to get it as a separate accessory. Here we get this the standard inclusion into the plastic kit, and this is really cool, and I think with a proper painting and weathering you can get a quite nice result. Next, we continue with the gray plastic sprue, again interconnection between the frames. So here we have the cockpit parts which I was talking about, and several more types of the landing gear wheels, some parts of the landing gear wheel wells, and more parts for the cockpit. So I guess several types of the cockpits are included here, but of course you will have to use only one. And here you can take a closer look at those cockpit parts. And overall, I think they look really great for standard inclusion. There are a lot of pre-molded features, so be sure to carefully bring them out. As you can see, the surface details are really nice for this scale. And the only thing which might be useful here is the sharp brush, because in some areas it will be really difficult to reach otherwise. And last but not the least is the sprue B. So here we have the tail wings. I can see also some parts for the landing gear, for the engine cooling flaps, also for the landing gear tail wheel area. Also we have the rear armor panel for the cockpit, and also the wing mechanization is here. So all of this stuff is coming as a standard part of the so-called basic kit, and as you can see, some of the parts should be assembled out of two parts, so be ready for this. And next we continue with the decals, but they are not that easy to take out because, as you can see, they are packed together with assembly manual. This is a sealed plastic bag, so I'm going to cut through it and we will check together what is actually supplied here. I mean, as you saw, there is an assembly manual which is printed in a standard format for Miniart. And there are also decal sheets, and again I remind you that decals are coming from cartographs, so in theory you shouldn't be worried about any possible issues. They're usually quite nice in their offerings, and I do not remember any problems with decals from cartographs, so I guess this one should not be an exclusion. And just as a proof of this, here is the decal sheet. Maybe I will close the lenses a bit so that you can see what we are talking about here today. And note that there are also some cockpit decals included, which is also quite cool. For some modelers it will be more than enough. and with some careful application and maybe also addition of the, for example, imitation of the lenses on the gauges, you should be quite fine. You will not need any additional PE or something else. And as you can see, the basic kit is actually not including the PE parts, so this is something also to remember. But there is also one more decal sheet. This one is dedicated to the stencils. I would say it's pretty much universal between the Thunderbolt releases from the same brand. So it's a good thing that it's coming with a segmentation, because this will allow you to focus on the different areas of the aircraft. And last but not the least is the assembly manual. So here I am closing the lenses even more because it's a white color brochure. It's color printed, but on the first page we have this so large white area. We have short list of the features, so unfortunately there are only 3 marking options, and straight on the first page you can see the first marking. And this is aircraft from late 1944. Next we continue with the parts map. Remember that Miniart does not show which parts are unused, and assembly process starts with the cockpit. So we have the seat belts pre-molded. Do not be confused by this. This is actually the plastic imitation of the seat belts, but in my opinion this is also okay for 1/48 scale. Then we also have the decals application, because as you remember we have a lot of features copied with decals in the cockpit. And then we start working on the fuselage house. We install the cockpit inside, and then goes on the engine firewall and the engine itself. As you can see, the engine is quite detailed here. There are even some decals if I am not wrong, but if not, then you can also try to replicate some weathering on those engines. And the only question is how to expose it, because as far as I remember, there is no option to open the cowling. There is an option to close the landing gear. That's what is cool, because you can choose between the retracted and also closed landing gear, which is a useful thing for displaying the aircraft in flight, or if you have the stand for the aircraft. Next we continue with landing gear. There are 3 types of the landing gear wheels, as you remember, so check your references. And next we continue with the installation of the tail wings. Here we have the pylons and also the canopy, and then you have to also decide whether you would like to have the drop tanks or the bombs. And here we have the stencils application guide. It applies to all of the markings. Here we have another aircraft from late 1944, and one more on the last page here. So this one is a quite simple marking, but I think it should be also quite good looking, with a smoke grenade, by the way. And you can see it's a spring 1945. Overall, I think it's a really cool release from Miniart, and it should be already available, so you can get it in Modelimex webshop. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion, so do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.